side, I see the born, of no return. Just ahead now, can't you see we're rushing for the end? I see the point of no return. Now see the point of no return. It's just
Well, good evening. Hope everybody out there is in fine shape and you've managed to dodge the Ebola bullet. My name is Gary Hendershot, and I am broadcasting live for you on October 7th, 2014. It's about 8:07 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, and you are listening to Wide Awake News on the Rents Radio Network. You know, with so many issues in the news, yeah, I thought for sure I was going to have me some new and interesting revelations to put on the table for you. And, of course, like a idiot, you know, I happened to listen to Mike Rivero, large part of his broadcast this afternoon, and you know, I kind of like that guy Dave with the X22 report that comes on Rents just before me. You know, I like the way he presents. You know, he has a very smooth, very measured way of presenting topics that I rather appreciate. And the problem is, all the stuff I was going to cover in the news tonight, they've already done. It's kind of embarrassing. You know, I'm going to feel like I'm an also-ran because, you know, a lot of the items that I thought were timely and of interest have already been covered. Unless all you're listening to is CNN, where I understand 355 and olders got a pink slip here recently. Isn't that precious? Yeah. Seems the dinosaur media has fallen on hard times. And a lot of folks are saying that, you know, the new internet media, you know, guys like Rivero and guys like Dave, and I guess to a somewhat lesser degree, guys like your own, you know, yours truly, you know, we're supposed to be the up-and-coming source for news and hopefully some level of entertainment for all you youngsters out there who are tech savvy and know where to find us. By the way, you know, I'm going to bring up kind of a sorry subject that may offend some of you, but you know, these broadcasts are provided to you for free. Yeah. You can tune in here on the Rents Radio Network, broadcasting live on the internet and on satellite radio all over the world. You can see my presentations and the presentations of a lot of internet hosts on YouTube and various other formats on varying other sites for free. But if you really think that it doesn't cost anything to produce, package, and broadcast this material, please guess again. Now, in the last few weeks, I have gotten a number of emails from folks saying, gee, you know, I really like your presentation, and I'd really like to send you a little contribution. Where can I send you some money? And my typical response is, hey, you know, I do this one night a week as a form of public service, and I do not expect nor do I wish to be personally compensated for producing these broadcasts. However, I do these broadcasts through the kindness of the Rents radio network. And those boys do have some significant costs to bear to make sure that you can hear this material live from the various sources that they support. So if you might have it in your heart to cut loose with a few shekels, or possibly even a few Federal Reserve notes, what I suggest you do is mosey over to rents.com, look down the left-hand corner until you find the little thing that says Rents Kitty, and kick them a few bucks. They could use it, and it couldn't hurt, and it will ensure you that you will continue to receive alternative points of view on the daily news from Rents as a source. Now on to my little tidbits for the evening. Now let's take a look at how the U.S. government has used quarantines over the years in order to fend off the potential of, shall we say, outbreaks. A long time ago, back in 1738, before the United States was the United States, New York City commandeered what at the time was referred to as Bedloe's Island. Bedloe's Island. That's now the little hunk of dirt where the Statue of Liberty resides. They quarantined it and set it up as a quarantine station due to concerns about smallpox and yellow fever, which at the time was kind of running rampant in New York City. In 1799, long time ago, a quarantine station and hospital was built at the port of Philadelphia, which at the time was the capital of the United States, in response to a yellow fever outbreak that had started 6 years earlier. According to historical records, some 5,000 people died in and around Philadelphia in the late 1700s. At the time, the city's population was only 45,000. So when 5,000 out of 45,000 die, yeah, that was a fairly significant outbreak. Another 17,000 fled Philadelphia. They just got the hell out of Dodge. Or in this case, Philadelphia. In 1863, New York State's Quarantine Act called for a quarantine office run by a health officer who could detain any ship entering the port of New York, order all cargo to be removed, and require the ship to be cleaned and fumigated. 1878, Congress passed the National Quarantine Act, shifting quarantine powers from the states to the federal government. A lot of stuff happened in the 1870s. This was shortly after the Civil War. The rights of the individual states to chart their own destinies were severely limited back in those days, and that was one of the periods in time when the grab on power by the federal government was most significant, and this Quarantine Act was just one of many actions passed during the 1870s and 1880s that culminated in the highly centralized federal system that we now have. 1917 through 1919, federal authorities during World War I incarcerated tens of thousands of prostitutes in an effort to curb the spread of venereal disease in what historian Alan Brandt has called the most concerted attack on civil liberties in the name of public health in history. By 1921, the quarantine system becomes fully nationalized when administration of the last federal quarantine station is transferred to the U.S. government. As recently as 1967, the CDC, then known as the Communicable Disease Center, took over federal quarantine stations and functions which had fallen under the purview of the Federal Security Agency since 1939. Between 2004 and 2007, the CDC increased the number of quarantine stations to 20 due to concerns about post-9/11 bioterrorism possibilities and the 2003 epidemic of severe acute respiratory symptoms syndrome known as SARS. So, looking back at history, the United States does have a long history of using what might be called medical martial law to enforce quarantines when the public health was at significant risk. Most recently, we've had the first locally diagnosed case of the Ebola virus pop up in Dallas, Texas. Now, to be fair, the fella who was diagnosed as our very first homegrown Ebola patient actually caught the disease trying to help his, landlord's daughter find medical treatment while still in Liberia. I have a sneaking suspicion, although nobody's been able to talk to this fella and confirm it, I have a sneaking suspicion that he knew he had been exposed to Ebola. He looked around at what was happening in Monrovia, Liberia, and the frustration that he encountered attempting to get this young girl treatment. She later died. This fellow is a reasonably well-educated, reasonably affluent individual with a visa and a ticket to the United States in his hip pocket. He considered his chances of getting proper treatment in Liberia, and he decided to do the two-step boogie, but fast. I'm not sure I can really blame him. I mean, put yourself in his position. He's no dummy. He's looking around Liberia, and he's seeing what's going on. He's saying, wow, man, if I stay here, I'm a dead man. Now I got me a visa, and I got me a ticket to the USA, where a number of infected people have been treated and survived. I think I'm going to take my chances. And he did. He hopped an airplane. The airplane stopped in Brussels, stopped at Dulles Airport, only about 10, 12 miles from me, and then dropped him off in Dallas, Texas, where he has family, apparently a girlfriend, and a wife. I'm not sure about all that. That's his problem, not mine. But no sooner did he hit the ground than he sought treatment, telling these people, hey, look, you know, I just flew in from West Africa, and I think I'm suffering some symptoms. Would you check me out? Well, apparently under Obamacare, you know, he didn't have any insurance, so the hospital was, you know, they just sent him home with some antibiotics and said, you know, go home, don't bother us. You don't have Obamacare. Okay, so a couple days later, I mean, this guy is really seriously ill. He's vomiting, bleeding, you know, the whole 9 yards, clearly infected with hemorrhagic fever. Has to call an ambulance, get an ambulance to come fetch him, take him to the hospital where, yes, he was finally diagnosed as being an active carrier. You know, he's actively infected. Now, it's very difficult for me to judge that man because I can put myself in his shoes, and I'm not sure I would have done any different. Now, you can say, well, you know, that was evil. You know, he took the chance of infecting all those people on the airplane. He took the chance of infecting his girlfriend and his family. He took the chance and brought that disease right here to the shores of the U.S. of A. And yeah, you know, if he survives, he's got something to answer to. As a matter of fact, I understand that state of Texas is going to prosecute him. You know, I'd say right now that's the least of his worries because this guy is hanging on by a thread. As a matter of fact, over the weekend, I heard a report that he had died, which turned out to be erroneous. He is still hanging in there, but apparently not by much. Now, he is going to apparently receive some sort of experimental antiviral called, let me see if I can pronounce this, Brincidofovir, or whatever the heck that is. I don't know. This is some sort of a experimental treatment. It's a little different than the monoclonal antibody treatment that was used on some of the other folks, that ZMAP preparation. Apparently they've run out of ZMAP, but at this point they're willing to try anything except one of the more obvious treatments, nanosilver, 10 parts per million. They've apparently excluded that from any trials, even though some indications are that it is somewhat effective. Bottom line is colloidal silver, nanosilver, though nobody can stand on a soapbox and say this is a cure for Ebola, what we can do is we can tell you 100% for certain it ain't gonna hurt. And there are indications that it may indeed provide positive results for at least some. Some Ebola experts worry virus may spread more easily than assumed. A lot of this has to do with that recent infection that came out of Madrid, Spain. I'm hoping most of you have heard about that. Apparently there was a nurse who was treating that priest that was brought back from Western Africa. He was down there as part of a mission in the Belgian Congo. Apparently contracted the disease, was brought back on his last legs. They gave him, one shot of what was supposed to be 3 shots of the ZMAP preparation. Didn't help him. He died. Well, this nurse was one of a handful of medical workers that was tending to that priest. And she knew what she was dealing with and apparently was using appropriate hazmat handling procedures. She had the, the plastic suit on, the whole 9 yards. I mean, she knew what she was dealing with and was apparently dealing with it appropriately. Still, it appears that she has become infected. Now, what we can take away from this experience is that this Ebola virus may indeed be easier to catch than what our CDC and our government has been telling us. We've been told that, hey, unless you come in contact with the person's bodily fluid and stick it in your nose or stick it in your mouth or stick it in your ear or stick it in your eye or something, the chances of you becoming infected are pretty slim. Now, there is also some indication that it can be transferred as a sexually transmitted disease. So, I mean, there are a number of ways you can catch Ebola, but casual contact, being in the same room with somebody who has Ebola, and even handling their bodily fluids, if you're in a proper hazmat getup, has so far been represented to us as being reasonably safe. Until this nurse in Madrid came down infected. Now, we may yet find out that she was careless in the way she removed her protective garments and maybe got some of the ook on her hands or something. I mean, we don't really know yet. But the fact that this nurse who treated the priest who died of Ebola in Spain, the fact that she has caught Ebola despite reasonable recommended precautions is taken by many to indicate that, perhaps casual contact, just being in the same room, breathing the same air, might indeed be enough to transfer the disease from one person to another. One thing that many people seem to forget is that right here in Northern Virginia, a place called Reston, there was a bioweapons lab that was investigating a form of Ebola that only infected monkeys. And they had a little incident where monkeys on one side of the facility that were purposely infected with Ebola somehow managed to infect another bunch of monkeys clear on the other side of the facility through what can only be imagined to be the air ducting system. That worried a lot of people. Needless to say, that facility was closed up tighter than a drum, sealed for many years, and I understand very carefully dismantled just a few years back. So that particular form of Ebola apparently was indeed transferred. Airborne. I am hearing the music, so it's time for me to slip out of here for a moment while the studio sells some goods to keep the lights burning, but I'll be back to do some more barking at the moon in just a few minutes. Alrighty, and we're back from that blatantly commercial interruption to the evening's festivities. I don't want to spend this whole segment on Ebola. I can tell you that you can get one of those Tyvek, full coverage, hazardous waste handling suits for as little as $9 on Amazon.com. I've seen them for as high as $60, so obviously some folks are out there trying to do some serious scalping. I did get a little note in the chat room during the break that one of our regulars in the chat room, a fellow who on YouTube is known as ZeroFossilFuel, all one word, so it's youtube.com/ZeroFossilFuel, all one word, has published a video just today that relates to this quarantine that the World Health Organization has put on shipments of colloidal silver into West Africa. So, if you're interested in yet another take on that particular issue, you might want to cruise over there and see what that's all about. I do know that Dr. Rima LeBeau, somebody that I've interviewed in other venues on a number of occasions, somebody that I've participated in marathons with and so on and so forth, has been very actively promoting the use of nanosilver as a low-cost potential treatment for Ebola. She was actively trying to get some trials to take place in Nigeria. The Nigerian government was game. They were willing to go for it. Frankly, some of these high-tech medications that are only available in the United States and in Europe are not available in that part of the world. These people are desperate. They are willing to try anything that might offer some hope. In the case of colloidal silver or nanosilver, whatever, this preparation has been known for hundreds of years to have antibacterial properties. And in recent reports published by the United States, even the United States military, it has been shown that nanosilver in particular does have antiviral properties. Now, nobody can stand on a soapbox, look at a person who is dying of Ebola and say, hey man, here's the magic cure, give me everything you own and I will cure you of your Ebola. That would be a criminal activity. But when you've got nothing else to offer somebody who is desperate, what could it possibly hurt to provide them with such an inexpensive potential remedy? Notice I did not say the word cure. If I say the word cure, I'm liable to get the FDA knocking on my door, threatening me with legal action. Isn't it nice to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave? That's enough on Ebola. Look, remember Katrina. Remember Hurricane Sandy. Remember Fukushima. What kind of record does your government have when it comes to handling serious emergencies that impact a lot of people? You consider the evidence and make up your own damn mind whether you really trust the United States government to handle Ebola. Moving right along. Remember Victoria Nuland? Remember her, F the EU, we're going to decide who runs Ukraine. Well, the U.S. spent billions of dollars to wage a coup in the Ukraine. And what have we gotten for it so far? You got to love it. I mean, truth is funnier than fiction sometimes. You got to laugh at this stuff. Otherwise, you'd cry. The analyst went on to say that the U.S. Assistant Secretary for European and Eurasian Affairs, Victoria Nuland, is still in Kiev to manage the aftermath of the coup and the ongoing chaos in the country. He concludes that the U.S. would fail to advance its vicious plots and the American empire was on the verge of collapse. Well, maybe not. We can only hope. I guarantee you, if it does collapse, they'll blame it on Ebola. They'll blame it on gun-toting, Bible-thumping Americans. They'll blame it on Islamic. They'll blame it on anybody except themselves, because they want to be there offering you the solution to their own failures. Protests in Hong Kong, democracy protests, they're apparently winding down. It appears that the Chinese hand-picked government has agreed to at least hold talks with the protesters, so they did move somewhat in their position. The head cheese over there has refused to resign, which was one of the principal demands of the protesters. These protesters, it's become pretty clear that the protests in Hong Kong were yet another example similar to Ukraine, where the United States, through its nonprofits and various other, skullduggery arms, were basically financing and influencing what they had hoped, I think, would be another color revolution. Now, does that mean that the Chinese hand-picked government that's running Hong Kong right now is lily white and pure, and that I think the Chinese are a great bunch of fellers? No. What it means is that, the United States seems to have this attitude where they can stick their fingers into everybody else's soup and determine whether or not it's warm enough. Now, with as many problems as we've got right here at home, with roads that are in disrepair, bridges that are falling down, water systems that can't seem to get water from where it is to where it's needed, and cities that are quite literally going bankrupt, Detroit, with as many problems as we've got right here at home, if there is any nation in the world where a regime change might be appropriate, take a look right in your backyard, Mr. American. Just take a look in your own backyard. Now, I agree with you. I would agree with anybody that the folks in Hong Kong probably deserve to have a say in their futures. They have a right to be able to determine for themselves what's going to happen in Hong Kong. But I ask you, does it really appear to you that you have a say how things are done here in the United States? I mean, if you get pissed off about that pothole just down the road from you that could swallow a Volkswagen, and you raise some hell with your city council, how quick does it get fixed? You know, if you turn on your faucet and sludge comes out instead of something that looks like it's drinkable, and you fuss, how quick does that get resolved? I mean, do you feel like you have any say over your future? Or are you so lulled into complacency by, you know, dancing with the stars in the NFL that you've stopped caring? I'm hearing that music again. Boy, I timed that one just right. I'm going to have to slide out of here for a couple moments, but I will be right back after these messages with the last segment of me barking at the moon. All righty, I'm going to cut in on that music a little bit short here. You know, this last segment, I just can't take that long bumper because I'm looking at all this stuff I've still got to try and get through, and that bumper wants to run for, oh well, moving right along. You know, this thing with this ISIS or ISIL or Islamic State, you know, it obviously, you know, it's still really kind of the big item in the news. Now, you know, here lately in the United States, we've become a little bit distracted because, you know, we've had this you know, Ebola thing going on, you know, and it's hit a little close to home, and a lot of people are kind of distracted. And during this period of Ebola distraction, we've been just bombing the hell out of Syria, you know, and you know, considering the targets that we've been hitting, you know, oil refineries, grain storage facilities, electric power I mean, basically we're blowing their infrastructure up. So it looks like the prelude to an invasion to, you know, a simple old country boy like me. You know, it looks like, you know, the airstrikes that happened in Iraq before we invaded Iraq. You know, you take out their infrastructure, you take out their command and control, you take out their ability to feed themselves and earn a little bit of foreign exchange, and then you march your troops in and you take over. And in many ways, it appears that our bombing campaigns in Syria, if anything, have actually helped these Islamic State characters. Now, it appears we have indeed blowed up a few of their Humvees and a few of their heavy gun emplacements and so on. You know, if that is indeed the case, then I guess those were legitimate military targets, and you know, more power to our military for eliminating that threat. But you know, right now there is an interesting thing going on up on the border of Syria and Turkey. In a town called, let me see here. What is this town? Dead, thousands of stricken civilians were told to flee from their villages. Coban, K-O-B-A-N-E, and there is a hashtag Coban thread going on Twitter right now. So if you are a Twitter aficionado, and you type the hashtag Coban in the search, you will find a thread. A lot of people, locals on the ground, are reporting what's going on. Now, this area of Syria is inhabited by people that identify themselves as being Kurds. And they've put up a valiant fight trying to keep these Islamists from coming in and kicking them out of their turf. Now, these folks have fought everybody. They fought against the Turks, they fought against the Syrians, and now they're fighting against this Islamic State outfit to keep their little hunk of turf theirs. And at this point, even women and children are manning the batteries trying to keep these people out of Coban. And they have allies within Turkey. Turkey is a NATO nation. In theory, they are supporting our war against terrorism with the Islamic State, but in fact, they have been mollycoddling these Islamic State guys. They've been providing them with medical care. I mean, the Islamic State boys just walk back and forth across the border between Turkey and Syria like they own it. And the Turks have indeed been providing significant support to the Islamic State. Well, the Kurds within Turkey are not real happy about that. They would like to see the Turkish government go kick their ass. Particularly, they'd like to see the government of Turkey make a stand at Cogan and keep the Islamic State from overrunning this Kurdish stronghold. The Kurds are protesting in Ankara, Turkey. And what do the Turks do? Today, 15 were dead during the protests. Yeah. So, you know, our good friends, Turkey, who you would think, I mean, if this, you know, war against terrorism is for real and the Turks really, you know, have skin in the game, you would think they'd be in there giving us a little bit of hand. I mean, they do have a significant military presence in the area. If they really wanted to, you know, slip across the border into Syria and instead of kicking Assad's ass, kick the Islamic State's ass, they probably have the wherewithal to do it. But they seem to be content to sit back and let the United States bomb the hell out of Syria rather than getting involved themselves. The problem for our guys, because we're not nearly as familiar with the area and as familiar with the players as somebody like, say, Turkey. Remember when Obama was saying we're going to find some of them there moderate Muslims to arm and train to go up against Islamic State? That way we won't have to put any boots on the ground. Well, the Pentagon can't decide which rebels to train because none of them look particularly moderate. Is this a big surprise to you? Needless to say, once again, the United States seems to find itself in a position where we are being dragged, kicking and screaming, into yet another war, many thousands of miles away, that's based on dubious reasoning and offers absolutely unknown benefits to the United States. What do we have to gain out of destabilizing Syria other than the fact that it makes Syria easier to divvy up between perhaps Israel and Turkey? What do you think? Difficult for me to tell. You know, I'm just an old country boy with straw for brains. Hard for me to understand and comprehend the, you know, larger meaning of these issues. I just can't for the life of me understand why United States blood and treasure is being invested in a part of the world where we personally got no skin in the game. There are other parties who are probably more qualified to make these decisions and handle these problems than we are. But, you know, we just seem to be the cops of the world, and I guess we're supposed to handle everybody's problems, even though we can't fix that pothole that can swallow a Volkswagen just down from your home. Another interesting tidbit in the news, you know, here in the D.C. area, we're starting to see graffiti around the Beltway that is being attributed to ISIS. Yeah, them bearded terrorists are hiding under every bed. You best check under your bed tonight. Make sure Baghdadi ain't hiding under there, because he's going to slip out from underneath your bed and slice your head off in the middle of the night while you're trying to snooze. Yeah, ISIS is everywhere. They're everywhere. And we are seeing ISIS graffiti pop up all around the nation's capital beltway. Ooh, scary, scary. Be very much afraid. The last time we had a synagogue here with a bunch of swastikas painted on it, turned out to be a couple of Jewish kids playing a prank. So, you know, before you lose a whole lot of sleep over this supposed ISIS graffiti popping up in your neighborhood, keep in mind, ISIS seems to have its hands full with Iraq and Syria right now. I'm not sure they really have the manpower, the wherewithal, nor the interest in coming here. But they'll tell you that ISIS is sneaking over the border to the south, and they're going to get you at any moment just to keep you scared. They want you scared so that you will be willing to give up your personal liberties and be willing to send your blood and treasure to some foreign country long ways away for absolutely no gain. Be very, very scared so they get what they want. Graffiti. I mean, most of the graffiti around this area is MS-13 gang, this South American gang, but nobody even cares about that. Most of the graffiti's South American gangs. Well, you get one little bit of graffiti that you can attribute to ISIS. Everybody, oh, ISIS, they're hiding under my bed. The producer of the anti-Obamacare movie, Sick and Sicker, a guy named Logan Clements. I've never been audited before I made this movie. There seems to be a pattern here. Yeah, a fellow who published a video very critical of Obamacare has all of a sudden found himself the target of a IRS audit. But the IRS is never used to punish political adversaries. We wouldn't do such a thing here in the United States, and if we accidentally did, all that information was lost on Lois Lerner's hard drive. Yeah. Oh, and you betcha. I just love Obamacare. Oh, Lord, do I love Obamacare. Thank you, Obama, for that free health care. Makes me sleep so good at night knowing I've got that. And Wal-Mart has cut health benefits for some part-timers. Yeah. It will no longer Walmart will no longer offer health insurance to employees who work less than 30 hours a week. The move affects some 30,000 employees, or about 5% of Walmart's total part-time help. We had to make some tough decisions, they said. Didn't know how much. Yeah. Yeah. Another interesting point is that Walmart is now going to get into the healthcare business. Yeah, you betcha. You can now go to Walmart and buy your Obamacare, unless you happen to work for Walmart. Gotta love it. Open carry supporters in Ohio are apparently going to march on that Walmart pack and heat to protest the fact that that young black fellow was gunned down inside a Walmart carrying around a toy rifle. I don't know if he planned on buying it or what, but it was apparently a piece of merchandise that was readily available for sale at Walmart, was mistaken for a real firearm by some security guard or some paranoid see-something, say-something idiot, and they gunned this man down for walking around the Walmart with a BB gun that had a Walmart price tag on it. And these open carry protesters are apparently making themselves known. They say this is definitely an assault on the Second Amendment, that the idea of open carry needs to be put right in their face. And you don't just shoot somebody for harmlessly carrying a firearm. That is a protected right. Ohio is an open carry state. Well, I'm hearing the music. That's it. I've done my barking at the moon for October 7th, 2014, but I'll be back next Tuesday, and you betcha we'll do it again. Good night, all. Alrighty, I think I got everything all cleaned up. I got the secondary machine shut down. All done with the rinse network for the evening. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know, actually, I did pretty good. There were only 4 or 5 more items that I didn't get to cover. Let me get through these last few items, and then I'll take any comments from the studio audience, as Bob Barker used to refer to you guys. Let's see. I got an interesting one here. This came out of thehill.com. Senate Majority Leader. Harry, my approval rating is only 21%. Reid. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, Democrat from November, put the online sales tax legislation at the top of his priority list. Yeah, they're coming after the internet sales tax again. This is long, long overdue, Reid said of the online sales tax bill known as, get this, they always give it one of these feel-good names to make you feel better about when they reach in your pocket and steal your money. Okay, what do they call it? They're calling this the Marketplace Fairness Act. Marketplace Fairness Act. Now, who could possibly be against marketplace fairness? He said he'd do whatever it takes to get it done. Yeah, short-term spending bill expires. Lame duck session is poised to be crucial for both sides. If the online sales tax bill doesn't become law this year, supporters will have to restart the legislative process in 2015. Opponents of the bill, including prominent GOP lawmakers and conservative organizations, are also ready for a fight, acknowledging that online sales tax advocates have found a viable vehicle with the Internet Tax Freedom Act. Both sides are also grappling. Yeah, I bet. They'll make a big show of it. The Republicans will say, "Oh, you can't do that," and the Democrats say, "Oh, we got to have it," and the Republicans say, "Oh, you can't do that." And in the end, they'll have a couple of drinks, laugh at you like a pack of hyenas, and you betcha, a new tax will be imposed. That's how it happens inside the Beltway. But they got to put on a show. They got to make you think that there's really discussion going on. Oh, boy. Did you know that for the 35th straight month, 35 straight months, more than 46 million Americans have drawn food stamps? Yeah. As a percentage of population, the number of people currently drawing food stamps here in the United States far exceeds the numbers who stood in soup lines during the Great Depression of the late 1920s, early 1930s. If not for food stamps, you would see hungry in the streets begging in America right now. Food stamps hides the problem, keeps it out of your face so you don't know what's going on. But right now in America, there are so many people desperate that they could not even eat if not for government handouts. Yeah. Isn't it nice to live in the land of the free and the home of the brave? Have you heard about Waldo, Florida? Where's Waldo? Where the hell is Waldo? Apparently there's a little community called Waldo, Florida that has something of a reputation. Yeah, I'm not sure who the heck bought this billboard that's over my shoulder right now, advertising the fact that just 6 miles ahead is Speed Trap Waldo. But yeah, Waldo apparently does have something of a reputation for, shall we say, police corruption and abuse. Let's see here, a scandal-laced police department in Florida has been forced to close following an exposed ticket quota scheme and lack of funding. On September 30th, the Waldo City Council voted to close the police department because they lacked the funds necessary to update their storage facilities and computer systems as recommended by so-and-so and such and such. Yeah, the small town has been known as a speed trap for years. All that changed when the officers revealed the operation. Following the revelation, city manager Kim Worley signed a contract with the neighboring county sheriff. So apparently they're disbanding their police department, which was apparently being used for nothing more than a freaking revenue generation scheme. Anyway, it had nothing to do with providing protection for the local businesses or protection for you in the case of a bad guy or something. These guys didn't do any policing. It was just purely a revenue generation scheme. Did you hear about the tape recordings that were made about, Goldman Sachs? Apparently some whistleblower insider managed to get a whole bunch of recorded evidence about the relationship between the federal regulators and Goldman Sachs, or gold in, your gold in my Sachs bank. The only reason Goldman Sachs exists today is because your federal government, in its infinite wisdom and being very, very generous with your money — actually, it's not even your money, it's your kids' money, your grandchildren's money, and your great-grandchildren's money. The only reason Goldman Sachs exists today is because they were bailed out with future tax revenues from generations to come. Yeah, how's that, America? How do you like that? The New York Fed's investigators are surprisingly fearful and defensive when dealing with Goldman Sachs. Regulatory capture is real. Police officers aren't known for negotiating their choice of words with citizens they meet or arrest, but these tapes show that Mike Silva and other Fed officials are constantly negotiating the language in their own reports with the banker that they oversee. Embedded regulators face special challenges. Yeah, you bet. The problem becomes even worse when regulator or supervisors are embedded in the institutions they supervise. They go to work not in their own organization, but in the offices of the banks they supervise. Most of the people they encounter throughout the day in the elevators and the coffee machine and the washroom are employed by the institution. They're expected to investigate with a skeptical eye. Needless to say, this is from an article in the Huffington Post. Headline of the article is 7 Revelations from Those Secret Goldman Sachs Tapes. If you're interested in an inside look at how federal regulators interact with one of the biggest and most filthy, dirty, lying Goldman Sachs of poop in the universe, I'll have a link in the thing below here on YouTube and also at smartscarecrow.com, the blog entry for October 7th, 2014. I'll have a link to this article in Huffington Post. Maybe this article won't even get pulled. Quite often when I link to an article at Huffington Post, by the time somebody actually clicks on the link and takes a look at it, somebody at Goldman Sachs has complained and that article has disappeared. It's been known to happen. Such nice folks. Bill and Melinda Gates. I mean, these people are giving away their billions. They are so altruistic and such nice folks, right? Right? India holds Bill Gates accountable for his vaccine crimes. Huh? Say it ain't so. These people are such... They're great philanthropists. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they give away all their billions of dollars. I mean, their kids are going to be paupers because mom and dad are giving it all away. They're just such nice people. Please tell me that. Yeah. While fraud and corruption are revealed on almost a daily basis now in the vaccine industry, the U.S. mainstream continues to largely ignore it. Now, The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is being taken to task for some vaccines that they supposedly offered at a cut-rate price to folks in India. These vaccines, in turn, killed a bunch of people. Folks in India aren't amused. They are not amused at all. And there's a chance the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is going to be sued in Indian courts. As a matter of fact, the paperwork's already been filed. They're being sued for their malfeasance in these vaccine applications. Now, on this note, I want you to consider that GlaxoSmithKline has apparently been tapped on the shoulder to develop a vaccine for Ebola. Yeah. GlaxoSmithKline is a subsidiary of Monsanto, our favorite company. Now, in this particular one, it doesn't look like Bill and Melinda Gates have any involvement. So I should probably go ahead and get their picture off the screen. But I want you to remember this vaccine tragedy that just played out in India, where vaccines that were supposed to save millions of people wound up killing many and saving no one. Okay, apparently these vaccines proved to have no efficacy against the diseases that they were intended to mitigate, and instead just killed a lot of people. I want you to remember that when your government starts promoting the idea that you should roll up your sleeve and get this new GlaxoSmithKline vaccination against Ebola infection, because I guarantee you it's coming. Just in our own recent history, remember the When Pigs Fly flu? Remember that one? You know, they were scaring us. Oh, you better be afraid. You better be afraid. You're going to get this here pig flu, and it's going to kill a whole bunch of people. Oh, you better get your shot. Remember that? You remember that? And it turned out the flu shot killed more people than the flu. Okay? No, I don't think I'll be taking my Ebola vaccine. On that one, you're just going to have to make up your own damn mind. All right, that was the end of my group of articles that I had prepared to make a presentation about tonight. Now, checking the chat room, often there is great wisdom in this chat room if they haven't already succumbed to too much vodka. Was there any items in the news that you guys think I missed, or perhaps you would like to disagree with one of the positions that I took in my presentation? I leave it to the esteemed studio audience. What do you guys think? Any harsh commentary out there? Who owns CDC? Nonprofit foundations. There's a group of nonprofit foundations who own all the stock in both CDC and NIH. It's an interlocking directorship arrangement. Chances are there's names like Goldberg, Feinstein, and Weinstein on the proxies. Who are the individuals? It's the actual people never appear on the paper. It's always held by some nonprofit foundation. Government blocking delivery of colloidal silver to Ebola victims. Yes. Well, apparently the World Health Organization blocked a shipment of nano silver that was destined for Nigeria. The one shipment that I know about. That's the only item that I'm absolutely certain of. Now, I know that Dr. Rima Lebeau, has been persecuted, even though she's no longer in the United States. I mean, she was born in the U.S., she used to be a United States citizen. I think she lives in Chile now. Okay, she beat the hell out of the United States. She lives in Chile. She's got a little, clinic and foundation that she runs out of Chile. But the FDA, the U.S. FDA, actually paid her a visit to threaten her over her representations of colloidal silver as being a potential treatment for Ebola. I missed the 12 labors of Putin. 12 labors of Putin. Now, I'm going to have to take a look at that article because that sounds like it might be interesting. I don't think I saw that one. Tommy Reed's promoting some kind of a video that I'd have to stop and watch for 5 minutes. I don't. All right, any quick and dirty items? I can't watch a 5-minute video right now and comment on it. Zero Fossil Fuels training video to make colloidal silver. So Zero Fossil Fuel has a video that teaches people how to make colloidal silver. That might actually be an interesting video. Anybody who might be interested, it's youtube.com/ZeroFossilFuel, and see what Zero's come up with. I may have to take a look at that myself. Although I already got what's supposedly a professional piece of hardware up here that the wife spent a heck of a lot of money on, that's supposed to make pretty decent nano silver, from what I understand, from what I read in the directions. Not really sure. I know I take the stuff, I use it, and I haven't had any infections. Well, yeah, I got a little cold, but everybody gets colds. There's no magic to colloidal silver. There's no magic to nano silver. The idea is if you do get sick, maybe you don't get sick, stay as sick as long. Maybe you don't get as sick as some of the folks who don't use the stuff. I don't think there's any magic to this stuff. If it has antiviral properties and can at least keep a virus from replicating as fast as it might otherwise, it might give your body, in the case of an Ebola infection, the Ebola infection absolutely overwhelms your body's immune response. The virus is faster than your immune response can deal with it. So if you can slow down the progress of the infection long enough for your own immune system to kick in, that's how most of these antivirals and treatments for viral infections work. It's not that the antiviral agent cures you. No, you cure yourself. Your own immune system eventually takes over and knocks out the virus. But sometimes the immune system needs a little help getting over the hump. If the viral infection is like a wildfire and it's going faster than your immune system can catch up with it, anything that can just slow it down a little bit to give your immune system a chance to kick in and take over is sometimes all you need. And that's what most of these antiviral treatments, including this high-dollar Z-MAP that they've apparently run out of, don't have anymore. I think Norway got the last 3 doses of this stuff. There ain't no more of that around, so they're trying some new and exciting stuff. Now, why they wouldn't at least try nanosilver against Ebola, I don't know. I mean, if you're dying, what the hell do you have to lose? Try that shit, Maybe it works, maybe it don't. What do you got to lose? Well, you gotta take a powerful lot of colloidal silver to turn blue. There have been cases where I don't want to downplay it and say it can't happen, but at the potency that I'm familiar with colloidal silver in commercial preparations and the stuff that I make here in my home, at those concentrations, I'd have to be drinking about 10, 15, 20 gallons of that stuff a day for a couple of years to get enough of a buildup in my system to start turning my skin blue. I mean, the people that turn blue from colloidal silver, I'm not sure how the hell they do it. I mean, they must be drinking that stuff in outrageous concentrations. If you're talking, 10, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 parts per million. 1,000 parts per million is some strong colloidal silver. Most of these home gadgets can't get up more than about 50 parts per million. If they get 50 parts per million, that's pretty damn strong. Yeah, but how the hell do you, you'd have to darn near infuse 100 grams of silver into you, intravenously. It's hard to do. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you'd have to work at it. You'd have to work at it. The one that we have is that silver lungs gizmo. I thought it was inordinately expensive. You got to remember, silver is a heavy metal, okay? I mean, heavy metal in the body is a contaminant. If you get too much silver, if you get too much gold, if you get too much lead, if you get too much arsenic, if you get too much of any of these heavy metals in your system, it's going to cause some unfortunate effects. But modest doses of some of these materials have been proven over the years to be beneficial. And in the case of zinc and potassium and some of the other metals, the body actually depends on having a certain amount of them. I've heard that there is some beneficial effects to copper. Don't really know that one. Silver seems to be the big one. Silver seems to be the one that everybody knows about, everybody talks about, and people have known about it since ancient Greek times and even back during Egyptian times. People have known that silver had medicinal properties. They didn't really understand bacteria and viruses as far as we know, although there's some indication that they may actually have understood those things. But they did understood that if you kept your water in a silver vessel, it stayed drinkable for a longer period of time. Even pioneers back in the 1800s, when they'd milk old Bessie, they'd throw a silver dollar into the milk pail, and they just happened to notice that the milk didn't curdle as quickly if they put a silver dollar. They didn't know about bacteria and viruses and all out on the plains. They didn't know about that. All they knew is that if they tossed a silver dollar into the milk pail, the milk didn't go stale on them as fast. So this has been known for a long, long time. Ain't nothing new about it. Yeah, most of the water soluble vitamins, if you take too much of them, you just piss them out. Whatever the body can't use, it just eliminates. Now, some of the vitamins are not water soluble, and they do build up in organs like primarily in like the liver, and it depends. There are some vitamins that you can indeed overdose on. But they're few and far between. Most people would find it very difficult to overdose on vitamins. Most Americans are vitamin and mineral deficient, particularly in the case of vitamins C and D. Very few Americans get an adequate infusion of vitamin C and D, and they're very important. Vitamin D in particular is very important to your immune system. So, a good steady dose of vitamin D can definitely improve your rebound from some kind of an infection, like a flu or a cold or something. It's most Americans would be hard pressed to overdose on vitamins. If anything, our diets are vitamin and mineral deficient, and without supplementation, your immune system cannot operate at peak efficiency. Anything else, guys? I'm kind of hoping I'm going to be able to shut this one down here within the next few minutes. It's been a long day for me. Activated charcoal. I've heard that. It doesn't remove. Actually, I've heard that some clays, like bentonite clay, are better. You can actually consume small portions as a foodstuff. You can consume small quantities at a time of bentonite clay, and it apparently helps leach toxic metals out of the digestive tract. Now, those heavy metals that have already made it to, say, the liver's, the body's very own charcoal filter, if you will. The liver tends to just keep that stuff. So a liver cleanse is a separate operation, and there are some teas and some there are some materials that are good chelators of the liver that can do what's called a liver cleanse. not a bad idea. You know, once a year or so you do a liver cleanse. You know, can't wait. It's like everything else, you know. It may not help you, but if you do one of these liver cleanses where you take the various bentonite clays and these supposed sacred oils that help you cleanse your liver, one of them is, you're going to love this. Have you ever tried to drink olive oil? Yeah. Have you ever tried to drink olive oil? Yeah. You actually take a shot glass and knock it back like it was a good, you know, Tennessee sour mash. That stuff is nasty. But apparently, that is a damn fine liver cleanse. That's supposed to, you know, knock stuff out of your liver and your bile ducts and so on. And, you know, it's a cheap remedy that people have used for, you know, thousands of years. And, you know, yeah, that's supposed to help clean out your organs of heavy metals and accumulated contaminants. So, you know, do I know that for a fact? No, but you know, I do it a couple times a year. It doesn't kill me. It's nasty, but it doesn't kill me. Alrighty, guys, I think I'm going to shut this puppy down for the evening, get my package together. What about mercury in the vaccines? Well, that's pretty well known. It's called, it's marketed under the brand name thimerosal, and it's basically mercury dioxide, and it's used as an antibacterial. Yeah, now, here again. Okay, we talked about silver having antibacterial, antiviral properties. Well, mercury has antibacterial and antiviral properties as well, which is why thimerosal, a mercury oxide preparation, is used as a preservative in vaccines. Golly gee, but I don't think I really want to be pumping mercury directly into my bloodstream any more than I want to be pumping silver directly into my bloodstream. Now, with the silver, I might take a few shots up my nose. I might take a few drops in my eyes. I might even drink a shot glass full of stuff, you know, once a day, twice a day if I've got an active infection. But mercury? I don't think so. I don't think so. But for some reason, they think it's appropriate to put mercury dioxide directly into your bloodstream as a preservative in the vaccines. And yes, they're still doing it to this day. They've known this. They've known this was bad since the 1960s, but they're still doing it. It's cheap and it works. I've heard that oil of oregano is a real good liver cleanse. I'll tell you what, though, man, that stuff is hard to gulp down. I mean, even taking a teaspoon of that stuff, it burns. Oh, man, does it burn. But it's supposed to be good for you, so I don't know. You know, oil of oregano. Yeah, I've taken oil of oregano. All right, guys, that's it. I'm shutting it down. Thank you so much for spending your Tuesday evening listening to me barking at the moon. And we'll be back next Tuesday, and you betcha, we will just do it all over again. Good night, all.
Calling out to you, won't you turn,